Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball 23, and this is episode number 4. We are in our rebuild mode. We started restructuring the lineup last time. This time, we're definitely going to go a step further. We're going to continue looking through the waiver wire, as that has been super successful thus far in getting rid of some of our older players and replacing them with early 20-somethings that are actually better than what we have on the roster at this point. So we are getting better as a team already as it is, but what we want to do is we want to start taking these 30-something year olds, and instead of having to pay them and waive them to make room for these new players coming in, I'd much rather trade them for some sort of asset, some sort of young player that we can develop. And therefore I've come up with a list of, well, realistically 10 players that I would like to get into the trade market and see what we can do to get something in return over these next few weeks of the season as we continue to build for the future. So those expendable pieces are primarily the ones with expiring contracts that we don't have long-term control over, and especially those that are 30-somethings, as they are not going to help us win now. So Danny Santana might have some talent and have some real-life Major League experience, albeit not great experience, but we've already picked up a left fielder in Pietri, who is as good, essentially, and we have long-term control on him and is a much better defender. He's not quite as good of a batter as Danny Santana is, but for our level will do just fine, and then provide some really good defense, which our defensive efficiency rating is ridiculously low in this league. So getting a good defender will help with that a little bit. But anyway, Danny Santana on our most expensive contract is very expendable. He is just coming back from his suspension here in about a week, so we're going to want to wait a little bit to get him traded. But Chad Bell, who was the ace, he's 33, he's 5-8 with a 5.5 ERA. Not good enough. Not good enough. So we want to get him traded. Almonte is not even playing at the senior level. He's down in the minor leagues level and not even playing. So love to figure out where he's at and certainly move him along the way. Two of our better relievers, but both in their mid-30s, even though they're not making a ton of money, it'd be nice to get some sort of piece in return. And with that waiver wire, it's really easy to replace these guys anyway. Askew has done okay this season and is only making league minimum, but at 33, it'd be nice to get something in return as opposed to just let his contract expire, because we certainly don't want to re-sign him. Tony Gonzalez at 37 is another expendable piece. Layden, our catcher, is I'm raring to get him out the door. Alex Nixon, who has been good, but he wants too much money to re-sign. He wants like $13 million, and he's just not worth that. And then Pedrero is the other big piece. Those ones have a little bit of value for us, especially with what they're getting paid right now this season, in getting some sort of trade happening with those guys. I think the most useful tool that this game has is shop a player, because trying to conduct trades when there are literally 90 teams at the senior level, and then you have the AAA, AA, 3 lower level, you have 5 minor league teams within each organization, which means it's actually 5 times more on top of the 90 than there actually are. So there's actually 6 teams within each of those 90. It is a lot of players. So deals are done on a regular basis, and honestly, trying to find a match is damn near impossible. Except that this tool makes that all possible. Shopping a player. You put names out there, and then you get something back, and something that you're looking for. Now, what I'm looking for is prospects. We're trying to build long-term. We're garbage now. We're going to get rid of those aging players, those expiring contracts, and try to get something back in return, even if it's just into the minor league system, that could potentially help us out. Even if it comes at the cost of a little bit of money, we have plenty of that to go around. So right now, I'm starting with 2 of those 10 guys that I listed, Layden and Workman. And those 2 combined, Workman's been doing pretty okay this season, which is going to net us a decent return, I think more so than Layden. And what we are accepting is from Monterey. Monterey is in our division. And it's going to be those 2 plus cash. It's going to cost me almost $5 million. But what we're getting in return is something better. Willie Lyman, already 23 and better than either of these guys, making league minimum. And then we've got shortstop Bill Neri, a left fielder who, okay, fine, but at 21, he might develop into something. If he doesn't, not a big deal. But also a starting pitcher who at 20 years of age is nearly good enough. He's AAA and doing okay there. If he develops even just a little bit, he'll give us something. But 2 of those guys look like they could contribute at that higher level. Replacing 2 guys, and realistically 3 of these guys, look like they could kind of replace what we're losing more or less and be as good, if not better. But either way, give us some depth that gives us some options down the road. And our next deal is something that's going to give up a little bit more, but it's also going to get something a little bit stronger in return. We are trading with the Vancouver Grizzlies. I'm not sure if they're in our level. No, they would be international. So yes, they're 3rd tier, and they're giving up a little bit of quality to get a little more win now. What we're giving up here is Chad Bell, who's supposed to be our ace, but isn't anything like it, and is 33. And Alex Nixon, who has had a good season-ish, hitting 244, 7 homers, 4 stolen bases, 0.2 wins above replacement, meaning he's right about average for the league. I wouldn't mind hanging on to Nixon, but 2 things. One, he's 28, so he only has so much time left, and if you're rebuilding, you want a 28-year-old who's going to be a solid contributor, not just average. And secondly, his contract's expiring, and he wants that $13 million. He's that one who wants a pretty hefty pay raise. There was 3 guys that want that, and only one of them made sense to pay. The other 2 don't make sense. So Nixon, gone. Chad Bell, gone. That is going to hurt our quality a little bit, but what we're getting in return on this one is 2 starting pitchers, one who can come in immediately to replace Alex Nixon and is just 22 years of age and is the number 34 prospect on the top prospects list, and has a 1.16 ERA, which is much better than Bell anyway. That's the funny thing on that one, is he's much better than Bell anyway. And then 2 solid prospects that have potential and could contribute early or sooner, or at least give us that depth we need to start filling out our minor league roster. So I'm planning on holding off on Pedrero just a little bit longer, at least towards the trade deadline. I guess I'm being selfish, but shopping him out this first time, I shopped him by himself for one thing instead of packaging him together to really see where his value sits. And there's certainly value. There's teams that are willing to give up top prospects to get them, but not necessarily numerous top prospects. And the couple teams that want to offer us big chunks of cash aren't offering good players. And then the one best prospect is Rod Vega, and Rod Vega has that 3-star potential, and I've seen him pop up in one of our other deals, and I almost picked it, but let it go, as he was kind of the only key piece to that one. This one with Magdaleno looks decent, and if we come back to this trade deadline wise and it's still there, then I'll take it, because I'm not letting Pedrero go for nothing. He will not finish the season with us, but he'll stay with us a little while longer. So I have completed 2 trades so far. It's going to start reshaping the roster a bit, so I'm going to have to go in and rework that, but that's okay. That's all part of the process, right? waivers is something you could do by clearing up roster space. So there's a lot of strict rules about your main roster, which goes beyond just who actually plays at that top level. It's complicated. We'll get into other details of that later on as the series goes on. But overall, if you want to send somebody down, there are rules in place that allow many of them veterans to deny that, to say, no, I don't want to be sent down. I don't want to go play in the minor leagues. I'm a professional. I deserve to be playing as a professional. If they refuse that, what you have to do is you have to waive them. And then everybody else has 10 days to claim that player. And that's how we've been picking up a bunch of these guys here recently, is guys who are on the fringes of rosters at higher levels, for us, are easily good enough to make our roster and contribute and help us. Meanwhile, I had somebody on the waiver roster that I had cleared space for one of those, and he had a couple days left on it, but after these moves, I was able to bring him back off of waivers without losing him. So that's Nate Carlson, adding in 37-year-old Tony Gonzalez, which means there really isn't anything that I'm losing here. Gonzalez is not having a good season. His ERA is about a 7, and Carlson was already waived anyway, and he, our former second baseman, had a really, really low average at the very bottom end of our lineup. Also in his 30s, I think. Well, anyway, what we're getting in return on this one with the Indianapolis Speed, small amount of cash going along with those two. We're getting 3 prospects that all have a fair bit of quality, but considering I'm giving away essentially nothing in these 2 guys, getting 3 decent prospects in return is actually a pretty good deal. Next up, I have a 36-year-old decent reliever and a AAA 30-something-year-old player. And what we're getting in return actually feels pretty good to me. We're getting a starting pitcher who is already somewhere between AAA and starter level, all young prospects, 5 total prospects, including a catcher, which is something I really, really need at the moment, especially now that we traded our starter, and the backup is a prospect who's not good enough. I'd love to get a catcher in one of these deals. I've been looking closely. There's really only one out there that I've seen so far, but we're not getting enough return around him versus what we're giving up, where he's popped up into a couple deals. If he pops up into one of these lesser deals, though, that's the one I'm going to take, because I'd like to get my hands on that player, as he's a step in the right direction for us. It seems to be the best one we're seeing out there anyway. Pedrero, apparently I should have pulled the trigger on that deal a couple days ago, as he has picked up a minor injury, 2 to 3 weeks. I don't know how long we have until the trade deadline. I think we're still a ways off from that, even though it is July. We had a slightly delayed start to the season with the creation of the leagues. Schedules weren't there. I had to kind of manipulate and get things going to make sure that it all happened this season. Of course, a couple things didn't happen, like having a draft this year. So, but now we're going to have to wait that a little bit longer. And Pedrero, who was, I think, 32, is now 33. It's all going against us at the moment on that front, on trying to get something decent in return for him. Final voting for the All-Star game. Things obviously have been impacted with all the moves we've been making, but Sam Nance, who had slipped a second, got back into the lead at third base. Flint keeps his lead at shortstop, so it looks like they'll both be playing. Pedrero came up into third place on the left field list, but with all that time that he's missed, I'm not sure he's going to actually make the All-Star game. And the All-Star game just took place. I bypassed it this first season. We're worried about building the team and not necessarily what's going on. But the U.S. League did win 9-3, and we had 2 players involved. And Flint was the only multi-hit player outside of one of the International League guys, but the only one on the winning team. They had 12 hits overall. He had 2 of them, scored a run, had a couple walks as well, so 4 times on base. That's insanely high for Flint. Nice job on that one. Meanwhile, Nance was also 1 for 1 with 2 RBIs and a walk himself. I'm looking at this, seeing that run. I'm wondering if he hit a homer. Flint had a double. Nance had a double. So he had a double and then scored in the same inning. And was hit by a pitch. Ouch. Askew is one that I'm a little reluctant to get rid of. Santana, I'm not. He hasn't even played for us, but he's finally done with his suspension. As we're ready to come out of the All-Star break, I might as well move him on his way. I've already got young prospects in his place. He's 31. He's making $3.5 million. He's going to want a bigger contract than what he has to re-sign when he's already in his 30s and hasn't even played a game for us. Best offer that we have in return isn't fantastic, but 2 catchers, even though apparently not much potential, but 2 young catchers is never a bad thing to have on your roster. And then a starter who might be able to contribute immediately or at least be a AAA guy for us. He's the number 25 prospect on the list. One of those catchers is on a league minimum, so he's probably going to take that second roster spot at least at catcher for us. It'll still be a weakness, but hey, we're building for the future anyway, right? All right, now I just traded away quite a bit of talent for prospects. Now, some of those prospects are ready to contribute and make their mark, but I did ultimately just make the team worse in the short term, but it really doesn't matter when we're 28-51 anyway, and those guys that we just traded away were in their 30s and on expiring contracts, meaning we were going to get nothing. So we got some value out of that, which I do think will absolutely help us in the long term. We just got a whole lot younger and got control over a lot of these contracts. But again, it might cost us some wins in the short term. So what we've done in the starting rotation, Rivera and Fussell were the ones we brought up from the minor leagues earlier on. Rivera, as a lefty, has moved up to the number 1 slot. Fussell's up next anyway. In that lineup, Bradshaw's still around. That was the only remaining one. The 2 replacements are Herman Cummings and Paxton Squire, and both of these guys came to us through trades that we just made. Also joining at the senior level is David Alva. Alva is another one of the ones that just came through the trade. He was in AAA before that. Not a great option for us. More of a potential one. We'll use him a little less often, but our bullpen is otherwise the same as what it was. And I think what we just lost in terms of starters has been replaced by good young talent that may actually do as well, if not better, than the group. So pitching staff, I'd say from where we were to where we are, we went from a C+ to a C, or maybe we stayed about the same. Now in our lineups, we did take a little bit of a hit. At catcher, we weren't good anyway, but we are slightly worse, but much, much younger. It was a 34-year-old. Now we have a 23-year-old who's actually been performing well, and he's filling in near the bottom of the lineup. Willie Lyman coming in, young prospect, first baseman, not expected to start. Luke Williams is a good one that we got through these trades, and Luke Williams, even though he's a third baseman, he will take over as our starting first baseman, and he is going to bat cleanup. He's going to be 4th in our lineup. So I think that's a big ask for him, but he's definitely a good talent, and he should perform fairly well. He was a good return in those trades. Pietri, Cornegay were both pickups through waivers, and Bunkley is another one we just got in through those trades and more of a prospect than anything else. So we did, like I said, we lost a little bit of our batting capability here. Also a C+, but probably better than our pitching staff was, and drops down to a C. And definitely has dropped down a scale where the other one was pretty close to being the same. We're not much worse than we were, but we are a whole lot younger. And on top of this, there's a lot of prospects. A lot of prospects that we've added into the minor league system, younger players that hopefully some of them can develop and become something more than what they are now. The greatest thing about what I've done is I've taken our upcoming free agent list and wiped it out almost entirely now. Almonte is left on that list, and this is somebody who has been injured throughout the season. Is 33 years of age, is only a 2-star player anyway, and I think there's no chance of re-signing him, nor would I want to. And with him injured, there's nothing we can do about that one. He's just that contract's gonna run out, and that's it. He's fragile anyway, so he's got no value. Pedrero still has value, but he's injured right now. So let's hope he gets healthy before trade deadline. He's down to a week or two, and then we will try to move him along. For me, this is an important screen because you can get a bigger picture of years down the road on control, and you can see just how much we now control the contracts of the players we have and the salaries. That's a big thing too, is most of these guys are making league minimum and locked in for years to come, and while it's going to slowly increase, it's only going to slowly increase. And yes, we have Ruben Flint and his insane money, but we could move him pretty quickly if we needed to make space, because he is the bulk of the salary in the years to come, and nothing about him is permanent. He's still just a temporary piece that I like having in here. Almonte is the last one with any size to his contract this year, but he's gone. And then Bill Flores, that's one I still worry about. That's our closer, and he's been good. He just turned 29. He's making league minimum, but it is expiring. So I may want to go in and try to re-sign him, keep control of him for now. Or what I'm thinking about doing here is that when Pedrero gets healthy, packaging Flores and Pedrero, because there's going to be Floreses out there. Relievers are cheap and easy to sign and become great trade bait as the season goes on. That's a good way to focus on rebuilding the program. So I'm probably just going to package Flores with Pedrero and see what's the best thing we can get back for that here in a couple weeks' time. Second stretch in a row where we're just 2-8. It's been a while since we've done much winning. 30-57 overall now, well off the back. Even Tacoma Thunder, who's sitting fourth, who got passed by San Jose, by the way. San Jose, 3 of the 4 teams have been playing well. So we're long gone from the playoff picture. Meanwhile, watching the offense, the defense, and where we stand, that's not looking good either. I mean, our runs, our average, our ERA, all of it in the bottom 3, and the home runs has fallen into that bottom third now. Of course, we were missing Pedrero that whole time, that big stretch, and then we got him back, and then he was suspended for 5 days, and then we got him back for maybe a week, and then he was injured again for a further couple weeks. So Pedrero's barely been involved. And like I said, even though the roster itself is only slightly worse after all of these trades we just made to get younger, it certainly didn't make us better for that. And we have not been able to pick up any decent talents in the waiver wire for the last little while. Watching pretty closely, there's certainly been better options than the guys we started the season with, but not better options than what we currently have to make up the roster. But with 87 games played, we are definitely past the halfway point into the final about 2/5 of the season now. Definitely headed for the bottom end of the standings. We have the worst record, which makes sense considering we are almost dead last in every single category. We're not last in any right now, but we are so close to last in all of them that it makes sense that we do have the worst record. We're not crazy far behind everybody else, but Ottawa Capitals at 33-54 is the next worst to us. But there's 38 wins and below. In our conference alone, there's 4 other teams, and in the other conference, 39 wins and below has 5 teams. So, it's not like we are just miles and miles and miles off everybody else, but we're pretty far away. We're pretty far off. So, like I said last episode, I'm actually happy. I'm actually happy about this. I'm happy that we are so bad, because it makes it feel that much better when you start winning. You pick up a team that's good. I don't know. There's something about taking a team and starting from scratch, and really starting from the bottom and working your way up. Makes you feel good. Not everybody likes that play style, but if you have not figured this one out by now, it is totally my play style. Anyway, the Eugene Olympians, the only way is up from here. That's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.